What if the king you have been waiting for all your life is finally coming? But he is not coming the way you expect? Jerusalem was always busy, but this time was different. It was Passover. Everywhere was full. People were walking into the city from every direction. Some came with their families. Some came in groups. Some had walked for many days. They came to pray. They came to worship. They came to remember how God once saved their people from Egypt. But this year something else filled the air. A name. Everyone was talking about him. Jesus of Nazareth. Some said, he opened blind eyes. Some said, he made the lame walk. Some said, he fed thousands with one small lunch. Some said, he speaks like no man we have ever heard. But one story was bigger than all the others. They said he raised a dead man. His name was Lazarus. He had been dead for 4 days. Everyone knew that dead is dead. But Jesus stood in front of the tomb and shouted, Lazarus, come out. And the man walked out, alive. From that day the whole land began to shake with one question. Could this be the Messiah? The promised king? Some believed. Others were afraid. The religious leaders were angry. They said, if we let him continue like this, everyone will follow him. And in their hearts they decided, this man must die. Jesus was not in Jerusalem yet. He was in Bethany, a small village near the city. It was a quiet place, a place of rest, a place where his friends lived. But Jesus knew he could not stay there. He knew what was waiting for him in Jerusalem. He knew the cross was coming. Still he did not turn back. That morning he said to 2 of his disciples, go into the village. You will see a young donkey tied there. Bring it to me. If anyone asks you why, tell them, the Lord needs it. They went. Everything happened just as Jesus said. They brought the donkey. They put their clothes on its back. And Jesus sat on it. Long ago a prophet had written, your king is coming to you, gentle, riding on a donkey. Jesus was not just going to Jerusalem. He was fulfilling God's promise. News spread fast. Jesus is coming. He is on the road. He is entering the city today. People ran out to meet him. They cut palm branches. They spread their clothes on the road. That is what people did for kings. The crowd grew bigger and louder. They shouted, Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the King. Children shouted. Old men cried. Women lifted their hands. At last they believed. The King has come. Jesus did not ride like a soldier. He did not carry a sword. He did not call for an army. He looked at the city. And he wept. Because he knew something they did not know. Today they were shouting, Hosanna! Very soon they would shout, crucify him! They wanted a king to fight Rome. Jesus came to fight sin. They wanted a golden crown. Jesus would wear a crown of thorns. The whole city was noisy. People were everywhere. They were talking, pointing, and asking questions. Is that him? That is Jesus. The one who raised Lazarus? Could he really be the Messiah? Jesus rode slowly into Jerusalem. The little donkey walked gently on the stone road. Palm leaves and clothes covered the ground in front of him. High on the walls, Roman soldiers watched with sharp eyes. They were always afraid of crowds like this. Big crowds can become riots. Riots can become trouble. But Jesus did not look like a fighter. He did not shout. He did not threaten anyone. He was looking at only one place, the temple. When Jesus entered the temple yard, he heard loud noise. People were shouting. Animals were crying. Coins were making loud sounds on tables. The temple did not look like a place of prayer. It looked like a market. Men were selling animals at very high prices. Poor people had no choice but to buy. Money changers were cheating people. Jesus stopped. He looked around. His face became serious. Then he made a small whip with ropes. And suddenly, he pushed over the tables. Coins fell everywhere. He chased out the animals. People ran in fear. And Jesus said with a loud voice, my Father's house should be a house of prayer. But you have turned it into a place of thieves. No one stopped him. They could not. There was power in his words. The chief priests and teachers of the law were watching. They were very angry and very afraid. One of them said quietly, this man is too dangerous. If we let him continue, everyone will follow him. But they did not touch him. The people were still with him. Then something beautiful happened. Blind people came to him. Lame people came to him. Jesus healed them inside the temple. In the same place where they were once cheated and chased away. Children began to shout, Hosanna to the Son of David. The leaders became even more angry. They said to Jesus, do you hear what these children are saying? Jesus answered calmly, yes. God uses children to praise him. They had nothing to say. When evening came, Jesus left the city and went back to Bethany with his disciples. The road was quiet, but their hearts were heavy. The disciples talked. Did you see how angry the leaders were? They hate him more now. But the people love him. Surely the kingdom will come now. Jesus walked in front of them, silent. He knew what was coming. The next morning, as they walked back to Jerusalem, Jesus was hungry. By the road stood a fig tree full of leaves. It looked good. But when he went closer, there was no fruit. Only leaves. Jesus said, "May no one ever eat fruit from you again." The disciples were surprised. They did not understand. The tree was like the city, looked holy, but inside it was empty. Back in the temple, Jesus began to teach again. People came and listened, but the leaders also came. They did not come to learn. They came to trap him. They asked him many questions. But every time Jesus answered wisely. They could not defeat him. The people were amazed, and the leaders became more angry. Back in that evening, Jesus sat with his disciples and looked at Jerusalem. The city looked beautiful, but it was lost. He talked about hard days coming, about suffering, about the future. The disciples did not understand. The city went to sleep, but something dark was already moving. In the house of the high priest, some men were not sleeping. The chief priests and teachers of the law were sitting together. They were angry. One of them said, "This Jesus must be stopped. Every day he teaches in the temple, and the people listen to him." Another said, "If the Romans hear about this, they will come and destroy our nation." Then the high priest, Caiaphas, stood up and said, "It is better for one man to die than for the whole nation to be destroyed." Everyone understood what he meant. Jesus must die. But they said, "Not during the feast. The people may cause trouble." They needed a secret plan. Then something shocking happened. The door opened, and Judas Iscariot walked in, one of Jesus' 12 disciples. He said, "What will you give me if I help you catch him?" They were surprised. They brought out 30 silver coins and gave them to Judas. He took the money. From that day he started looking for the right time to betray Jesus. That evening, Jesus and his disciples walked through the city to a house where they would eat the Passover meal. Peter was talking. John was walking close to Jesus. Judas was walking behind. His hand touched the money hidden in his clothes. It felt heavy. They entered a big room upstairs. Everything was ready. The food, the table, the lamps. Jesus looked at them and said, "I have wanted to eat this meal with you before I suffer." They did not understand. Jesus stood up. He took off his outer clothes. He tied a towel around his waist. He poured water into a bowl. And he began to wash their feet. The disciples were shocked. This was a servant's job. When he came to Peter, Peter said, "Lord, you will never wash my feet." Jesus said, "If I do not wash you, you cannot belong to me." Peter said, "Then wash my hands and my head too." Even Judas' feet were washed, even the one who would betray him. While they were eating, Jesus took bread and said, "This is my body given for you." Then he took the cup and said, "This is my blood poured out for you." Then he said something that made everyone quiet. "One of you will betray me." They were afraid. They asked one by one, "Lord, is it me?" Even Judas asked. Jesus answered him quietly. Judas stood up and left. It was night. After the meal, they walked to a garden called Gethsemane. Jesus said, "Tonight, you will all run away from me." Peter said, "I will never leave you." Jesus answered, "Before morning, you will say 3 times that you do not know me." In the garden, Jesus told most of them to sit down. He took Peter, James, and John a little farther. He became very sad. He fell to the ground and prayed, "Father, if it is possible, take this cup away from me. But not what I want. Do what you want." The disciples slept. Jesus prayed 3 times. He was in great pain. The time had come. Then they heard footsteps. Many footsteps. They saw lights coming closer. Torches. A crowd was coming. And in front of them was a man Jesus knew very well. Judas. Judas walked up to Jesus. The soldiers stopped. Judas looked at Jesus. For a moment he did not speak. Then he kissed him and said, "Greetings, teacher." That was the sign. Jesus said quietly, "Friend, why are you here?" The soldiers rushed forward and grabbed Jesus. Peter pulled out his sword and cut off the ear of the high priest's servant. The man screamed. Jesus said, "Put your sword away. Those who use the sword will die by the sword." Then Jesus touched the man's ear and healed him. Even now, even here, they tied Jesus' hands. The disciples were afraid. One by one, they ran away. Jesus was left alone. They took him through the dark streets of Jerusalem. The same city that praised him was now silent. They brought Jesus to the high priest. Many people told lies about him, but their stories did not agree. The high priest asked him, "Tell us the truth. Are you the Son of God?" Jesus said, "Yes, and you will see me coming with power." The high priest became angry. He shouted, "He deserves to die." They spat on Jesus. They hit him. They laughed at him. Outside, Peter was sitting near a fire. A girl looked at him and said, "You were with Jesus." Peter said, "I don't know what you are talking about." Another person said, "You are one of his followers." Peter said, "I don't know him." A third person said, "You were surely with him." Peter said angrily, "I don't know the man." Then a rooster crowed. Jesus turned and looked at Peter. Peter remembered what Jesus had said. His heart broke. He ran away and cried. Morning came. Jerusalem was waking up. Birds were singing. People were opening their shops. But something terrible was about to happen. Jesus was already awake. He had not slept. His hands were still tied. His face showed pain, but his heart was calm. They took him to Pilate, the Roman governor. Pilate looked at Jesus. He did not see a criminal. He asked, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered, "You have said it." The priests began to shout many bad things about Jesus. But Jesus did not answer them. Pilate was surprised. He said, "I find no fault in this man." But the crowd was growing, and they were getting angry. Every Passover, Pilate used to free one prisoner. There was a bad man in prison named Barabbas. Pilate asked the crowd, "Who do you want me to free? Barabbas or Jesus?" The priests whispered to the people. They told them what to say, and the crowd shouted, "Free Barabbas." Pilate said, "What should I do with Jesus?" And they shouted, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" Pilate said, "What? What wrong has he done?" But they only shouted louder, "Crucify him!" Pilate was afraid of the crowd. So he washed his hands and said, "I am not guilty of this man's blood." And he gave Jesus to them. The soldiers took Jesus away. They beat him. They put a crown of thorns on his head. They put a purple robe on him and laughed. They said, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They hit him again. They spat on him. Jesus did not fight. He did not curse. He stayed quiet. They put a heavy wooden cross on his back, and they made him walk, step by step, through the streets. People watched. Some cried. Some laughed. Some just stared. Jesus was weak. He fell. So they forced a man named Simon to help him carry the cross. They came to a hill called Golgotha. They laid Jesus on the cross. They nailed his hands. They nailed his feet. They lifted the cross up and left him there, hanging, in pain, between two criminals. People stood and watched. Some mocked him. "If you are the Son of God, come down." The soldiers laughed. Even one of the criminals laughed at him. But the other one said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus said to him, "Today you will be with me in paradise." Then something strange happened. The sky became dark. In the middle of the day, for 3 hours, the earth was quiet. Jesus cried out, my God, why have you left me?" He looked down and saw his mother. He saw John standing near her. Jesus said softly, "Woman, this is your son. Son, this is your mother." Even in pain, he was still caring for others. After this, Jesus said, "I am thirsty." Someone put a sponge with sour wine on a stick and lifted it to his mouth. He tasted it. Then he said, "It is finished." And with a loud voice he cried, "Father, into your hands I give my spirit." And he died. Suddenly the earth shook. The rocks broke. The curtain in the temple tore into two from top to bottom. The Roman soldier who was watching said, "Truly this man was the Son of God." Many people were afraid. Some beat their chests and went home quietly. The soldiers came to break the legs of the men on the crosses. But when they came to Jesus, they saw he was already dead. One soldier pushed a spear into his side. Blood and water came out.